Hello. In this video I'm going to go through iteration, and through this video we're going to look at how you can construct and apply an iteration formula. Now, iteration is a refined process of trial and improvement, and it's something which has been added to the new GCSEs in maths. Now, most questions that I've seen have followed a particular structure, and so we'll go through some of the common things which are being asked of pupils in an iteration problem. So here I have an example which asks you to start off by showing that the iteration formula for x cubed plus 5x minus 3 equals 0 is going to be this on the right. So to do that, you are going to need to do some rearrangement of the equation that's on the left. Now, normally when you're rearranging an equation, you are doing inverses, which is fine. But what you're wanting to try and do are the inverses which will specifically create the iteration formula that you can see on the right. So we want to be quite particular about what we move to the right hand side in our equation. So if we look at the iteration formula, we can see that on the right is a 3 in the numerator and then minus some x term cubed. So what we're going to do is move the terms from the left hand side that contain 3 and the next cubed over to the right. And so we get 5x equals 3 minus x cubed. And then, because you can see that 5 is in the denominator, what's happened is we've divided through by 5. And so this gives us something which looks very much like the iteration formula. The only thing that's missing is the subscript notation, and that is what you would add in afterwards. And the way an iteration formula will work is that you will substitute one value of x into the right-hand side to create your refined and better answer or better value on the left-hand side. And that's what we're going to go into next. Now, once you've done a question where you've shown your iteration formula and how it could be written, the next part is typically about applying it. So in this case, we're looking to solve the equation to 3 decimal places by using the iteration formula given a start value. And so x0 equals 1 is our start point. And so in order to use the iteration formula, you need to substitute that into the formula on the right-hand side. Now what will happen is that you'll be able to work out what the next value is in the iteration. So on the right, we have x0 replacing xn, and since we know that x0 is 1, we can now figure out that the next iteration, our next value, is going to be 3/5 minus 1 cubed over 5. And this would give us our next value as being 0.4. And this value of 0.4 is a much better answer than 1. It is closer to the solution. And so what we want to do then is take this value and put it back in again. And that should get us even closer. And the iteration formula will keep recycling your answers and refining them until you get to the best solution possible. So here we're going to now look at finding the second value in the iteration, or the second iteration, and so we're going to have to put the first iteration back in. And we do this, I'm not going to go through all the calculations, but you'll get 0.5872. Now, you'll need to do this a number of times, and what I found is that if you type it in correctly in the calculator using the ANS button, you'll be able to press the equals button however many times you need to in order to get to your solution. Now, some questions have asked specifically for certain iterations like x1, x2, and to show that they are particular values. So certain questions you may have to do that. But in this case, we only need the answer correct to 3 decimal places. And it doesn't matter how many iterations we do. So what I would typically do is do several iterations to get there. So the next iteration would be 0.5595, and there were more digits, which I've sort of rounded at this point. And you'd keep going, and by the time I got to the 10th iteration, I could tell that it wasn't going to change much after this. We got 0.5641, and then there were more digits afterwards, but that 1 wasn't changing now. And so at which point I decided I know that I can get this to 3 decimal places now. So typically once the 4th decimal place is settled and is becoming a bit more of a fixed value, you can then give your final answer to 3 decimal places. Now this is how typical iteration questions have looked, so there could be some other way of writing it, but you just need to be aware of how to rearrange the initial equation and then how to substitute your values in and keep repeating them. And then so once you put a value in, you use it again and again, and it will gradually refine your answer down to the best solution possible to the given amount of accuracy that you need to do. Okay, so hopefully this video has been helpful on iteration, and feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks.